Savage Dragon 74 from April of 2000. The second part of the End of the World trilogy. Looking at this cover, Smasher is back, and she's ready to kick Dragon's ass. Let's get into this one. Erik Larsen writes and draws, Heliopolis letters, Rude and Motown color, and Josh Eckhorn is good to the last drop. We open up with Widow chasing her daughter Janie up the side of a building. This is the first time we've seen the baby wall crawler. And of course, she immediately gets kidnapped. So if it wasn't obvious by last issue, Dark Lord and the Covenant, they're kidnapping these superpowered babies, and we'll be seeing all of them later this issue. But during the apprehension, Widow gets a boot to the face right as she peeks over the top of the building. So she's knocked down to the street below, and she tries to shoot off a web, but it's too late, and her head smashes into the pavement there. Just brutal. So at this time, Larsen was also working on the Thor and Spider-Man series for Marvel Comics, and so he was able to reuse some of these panels for Amazing Spider-Man issue 19, except Peter was able to stop himself before getting splattered. I don't have that comic, but maybe I'll put up a screenshot here if I can. So there's a subplot over here with She-Dragon and the SOS, but I feel like this is mostly just exposition for readers who maybe missed a couple issues. It's like these characters are playing catch-up to where we're at in the narrative. So where are we at in this story? Last issue, we saw that Jennifer, a.k.a. Smasher, is alive and well. So well, in fact, that she's just beating the shit out of the dragon here. In the previous issue, we saw that Jennifer was being brainwashed by Dark Lord, and so she wants to kill the dragon. So she's not really herself here. But when you think about what she's saying and why Dragon must be stopped, she creates a convincing argument. You see, if Dragon kills young Dark Lord, that would create a paradox that would end the world as we know it. I mean, this storyline is called The End of the World, so Smasher isn't totally wrong here. Back at Chicago PD headquarters, more exposition and characters just kind of catching up to the story where they've got all these kidnappings. The Johnson twins are kidnapped, and they're discovering that Dragon is on a secret mission. Along with Mighty Man. Mighty Man is also along this rescue mission. They split up once they got inside so they could cover more ground, of course. And so while Dragon is fighting Smasher, Mighty Man is battling the Super Patriot, who was also brainwashed. So we got a lot of kidnappings and a lot of brainwashing going on in this book. Back to the other battle, Smasher continues to pummel the Dragon, who hasn't been putting up much of a fight. Instead, he tries to rationalize with his wife here. Or I guess they weren't really married because it was an imposter at the wedding. Anyway, once he realizes that he can't talk his way out of this, he just punches the hell out of Jennifer, sending her flying right into the tower of glass tubes, sending all these pregnant clones crashing to the ground. Whoops. She-Dragon and Sergeant Marvel are still doing some detective work, and they think they got a lead on the location of the dragon. Meanwhile, back to the fight. So most of the clones were killed, the Rapture and the Rita clones and stuff. But all the Jennifer clones, they've got some superpowers, so they survived this crash. And they start helping the real Jennifer beat on the dragon. He could barely handle just one of her, so he has to run for his life. Crashes through the ground there. You'd think being pursued by an army of naked blonde women would be a dream, but not the case. Dragon is forced to jump down off this ledge down to the factory level or something, creating this explosion. I think he does it on purpose. I got no clue. Then over with the Mighty Man. So Mighty Man knocked out Super Patriot and tries to leave the facility, but he's taken out before they can escape by some kind of force field or something. Anyway, they land with a thud down there. And Dragon spends a page just kind of running around. There's pipes and sci-fi stuff, but rarely does so little happen on a 6-panel page. I guess Larsen just wanted to save the reveal for this page turn as Dragon enters the nursery to see all the missing kids. We got Janie up there. We got Malcolm Dragon, the Johnson twins, with ugly-ass Peter there. Let's see. There's this girl with the clenched fist. That's the Barbaric and Ricochet's daughter. I cannot remember her name. And then, of course, the evil Dark Lord child, who tells Dragon that he's a fool and it's time to die. Let's see, we got one more reveal. She-Dragon and the SOS, they are ready to roll up on the Covenant headquarters like they were the FBI at the end of Silence of the Lambs. But if you remember that movie, it looks like they're about to raid Buffalo Bill's house, but it turns out to be the wrong place. Same thing here, man. They were set up, and the other missing villains, Baby Boom and Negate, they are strapped together in this device that She-Dragon identifies as a Negabomb. We will find out what that means next issue. On to Fanatics here with the usual numbered list of Q&As. Reaction to issue 72. We've got one fan request here in all caps. Please do not change anything. It's like, sorry, dude. What kind of a request is that? Anyway, change is a part of life, Larson says. We got another request for Jerry Springer to make an appearance in the comic because he's based in Chicago, was extremely popular at this time. Larson doesn't like the idea, but I could see a dragon in a fight that kind of spills into the Jerry Springer studio, and maybe it gets broken up by Steve, the security guard, while the audience is chanting, Jerry, Jerry. Larson has a talk show host already, this Jerry Rivers character. Geraldo Rivera, Jerry Springer mashup, maybe with Little Joan Rivers. Anyway, moving on. There's some more discussion about this kind of religious adherence to continuity by Marvel and DC, which ruins the enjoyment of the story, complicating everything more than a new reader can handle. Larson's saying that he finds the weight of continuity to be so cumbersome that he can't get into a lot of books and can't imagine how a kid would feel. I would relate this to a quote from Al Pacino in The Devil's Advocate. Just replace the word guilt with continuity, but it's like a sack of fucking bricks. All you got to do is set it down. Let that shit go. There's another letter here by Van Ruth criticizing the sex and the language and the violence and the mature direction of the book. He writes, I cannot let my children read this book. It is a shame. Larson replies, your kids can't read Preacher either. Is that a shame? I'm trying to make a comic that entertains one person, me. Trying to please everyone is a dead end, and a creative stagnation is the result. Far better for me to try and do what I find entertaining than to try and second guess how everyone feels. End quote. Let's see, we got Benjamin Wade asking when the Superman Savage Dragon crossover will be finished. Larson says he has a few pages to go. This is a good question, actually, because the first half of this crossover was released 6 months earlier in November of 1999. And then the second installment, Chicago, won't be released for another year and a half, 2002. So a few pages, maybe an understatement there. I don't know. We'll find out more about the delay at some point, I'm sure, but I don't even know when I'm going to be able to cover these. Moving on, we got Dragonbert backup feature by Carl H. Says there was a technical difficulty. So these strips were supposed to be released in the last issue, but there was some screw up. So the continuity's messed up here. We were just talking about confusing continuity in comics. I didn't even realize it pertains to these backup strips as well. Of course, we got a good-looking pinup here by Chris Giugliotti, Dragon in watercolor, pretty dope. We got a Megaton Man strip by Don Simpson. So Megaton Man's costume is kind of deconstructing itself, just down to the blue spandex. And this kid comes up and asks are you the Tick? And, Tick was very popular at the time. He had a cartoon series, live action show. They do kind of look similar, so Mighty Man's like, yeah, I am the Tick. You want an autograph? And the kid's like, nope, the Tick sucks. So this sends Megaton Man into a rage. He rips off his costume, puts on some pants and a bandana, and says, this is my new look for the new millennium. What's funny is he kind of wants to be current, but this is clearly kind of an early 90s extreme look. So even by contemporary standards, this is dated. But good stuff, though. Moving on to Desperate Times by Chris Eliopoulos. We've got jokes about excessive body hair. Maybe some of you can relate. Those of you with some hairy knuckles. Finally, we got an ad for Crimson Plague. This was a creator-owned series by legendary artist George Perez, who we just lost a few years ago. Anyway, this was the second attempt at this vampire book. Perez had published a couple issues back in 1997 for Event Comics, but then that ended once Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti folded Event Comics to work exclusively for Marvel and the Marvel Knights line back in 1998. So then Perez shipped his series over to Image here in 2000, and it didn't go much better, just 1 or 2 issues before calling it quits. So not everybody can pull off a creator-owned series, I guess. It's tougher than you would think, even if a talented guy like Perez can't get it to succeed. So that brings us to the finale of The End of the World, issue 75 next.